Assessment, Department of Sociology, University of Colombo, Sri Lanka on South Asian perspectives on financial inclusion among textile workers. Our online moderator will now introduce her. Ma'am, you can start the session now, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. I will try my work and let me get to my screen. So first of all, I would like to thank the Department of Social Affairs, the Working Institute of Art and for the invitation to present a particular heritage in South Asian Dr. That's so my presentation, as you can see, is a literature report with no empirical fieldwork, but it draws on a substantial body of public research, policy documents, and institutional information. The central question I want to address is, in a region where financial inclusion has improved significantly at the aggregate level, why do textile and garment workers, the people who produce the clothes that our South Asians remain among the most financially poor? In my presentation, I will be giving particular attention to the Sri Lankan scenario, not for any other reason, but the fact that I am more familiar with the context. So let me move on to my So as any presentation, I would like to start my presentation with a definition of financial inclusion. Financial inclusion refers to significant and sustainable aspects from financial services, such as savings, credit, insurance, payment. This is a standard definition used across the literature and by the World Bank. Critically, the literature distinguishes between access and usage. Having a bank account is the first step, but it is not inclusion. What matters is whether people can actually use a range of appropriate financial services in a way that improves their financial well-being. This is equation, access versus usage, is the central theme that will run through everything I say during this presentation. Across South Asia, socio-economic variables like education, income, and employment type are the key determinants of who is included. Women, informal workers, and the low-income community, all of which describe most textile workers, are consistently at the bottom of the indicator. The headline numbers are impressive. South Asia's average account ownership has risen substantially. Sri Lanka sits at 88%, higher than the regional average. But as we will see, those numbers mask the situation of textile workers on high. The textile sector as a site of exclusion. The textile garment sector is the economic backbone of South Asia export economy, and it is also one of the most consistent sites of financial exclusion in the region. The workers who keep these industry fronts are predominantly low-wage, female, and rural working migrants. They live far from their family and their social network. They typically have no collateral, no formal employment documentation, and no credit. This means they are ineligible for virtually all formal lending. The literature documents a consistent pattern across India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. Without access to formal credit, workers depend on money lenders, informal savings clubs, and advanced wage arrangements, all of which are expensive, unreliable, and inexpensive. There is also a deeper historical dimension that the feminist literature draws attention to. Women's labor in textile production has always been rendered invisible. Preparatory work, home-based meetings, quality checking, these are all unpaid, unrecorded, and therefore absent from any formal financial requirement. This invisibility invades the structure of the industry and it creates the conditions for financial. Moving on, let us now look at the Bangladesh scenario. Digital wages and the limits of inclusion. Bangladesh is the most studied case in this reflection, given the sheer size of its ready-made garment sector. 4 million workers accounting for over 80% of national export. The COVID-19 pandemic created a natural experiment in digital financial inclusion. The government mandated digital wage disbursement, and in the 25 days, 2.5 million new mobile money accounts were opened. It was hailed as a breakthrough. But the UNPDS research tells the story. After government support was withdrawn in August 2020, digital payment use in the garment sector dropped by more than 3%. The infrastructure that has been created is not whole to translate that. Because in a cashless ecosystem, digital wages actually has subscription. Workers now have to cash out their wages into savings payments by groceries or cars to free. Research found workers were satisfied with cash label systems, which were orderly and predictable. They feared agents had long queues and transaction costs that ate into already meager wages. The most recent evidence confirms that all digital literacy demanding work schedules that prevent bandwidth, absence of formal employment contracts, and high mobile transaction costs remain entrenched values. Digital inclusion in name is not digital inclusion in practice. Moving on, we have the Indian scenario. Policy ambition versus structural gaps. India has the most ambitious state-led financial inclusion program in the region. The Pradhan Mantri Jan Yojana, or in English, the Prime Minister's People's Wealth Scheme, I'm sure you are familiar with the PNJEY, has achieved near universal savings account access. But the gap between account ownership and substantive financial inclusion is, if anything, wider in India than anywhere else in South Asia. 85% of India's workforce is in the informal sector. More than 17 million women are engaged in home-based work, and 12 million or more in non-agricultural informal activities. These workers, who include home-based textile workers, embroiderers, weavers, and garment assemblers, are largely invisible to formal financial systems for credit, insurance, and social protection. The credit problem is structural. Traditional lending depends on collateral and formal income documentation. Informal textile workers have neither. They are, as the CNBC literature puts it, stuck in a bad equilibrium with no escape. Informal coping mechanisms such as money lenders, rotating savings clubs, loans from families and employers remain the real financial infrastructure for most workers. Research from Northeast Asia identifies three latent dimensions of financial fragility among informal workers. These are fragility itself, credit access value, and lastly, informal coping mechanisms. These dimensions are not separate problems. They reinforce each other in ways that formal financial inclusion strategies have not yet addressed, forming a vicious cycle which is difficult to break. Let's move on to the Pakistani story. Gender, culture, and the microfinance field. Pakistan's textile sector is one of the largest in the world, but women workers within it face some of the most severe financial exclusions anywhere in the region. The Global Index 2021 data shows that only 13% of women in Pakistan held formal background, compared to 47% of men. Women savers represent just 40% of total savings in microfinance institutions. And crucially, World Bank research has found that women often bear all the transaction costs and risks of accessing loans, but are not the final beneficiaries. The loans are passed on to male households. Cultural norms are a compounding structural barrier. Women's mobility is constrained. Trust in formal institutions is low. And gender-blind regulatory frameworks have historically failed to create products or delivery channels suited to women workers. Pakistan has made headline progress recently. The State Bank reports women's financial inclusion rising from 4% in 2018 to 52% in 2025. But this figure requires scrutiny. 93% of loans to women are microloans. Women remain clustered in the smallest, most precarious tier of the financial system. Inclusion in names is not the same as economic income. Now going into the Sri Lankan scenario. High metrics is exclusion. Sri Lanka presents the most striking paradox in the South Asian literature. It has the highest account ownership rate. Civil society organizations in the Karnataka export processing running soup kitchens for pregnant and lactating garment workers at the height of the crisis, while the industry as a whole was recording profits and winning export contracts. And most recently, the government attempts to restructure the employee provident fund, which holds the retirement savings of 2.5 million workers without worker consultation. This was attempted, but I don't think it was ever realized. However, it shows that these still stand a risk. Shows how even the limited formal financial protections that government workers have are precarious and subject to state. National Financial Inclusion Strategy or the NFIS. Sri Lanka's National Financial Inclusion Strategy developed by the Central Bank with IFC, International Finance Corporation and World Bank is a serious policy framework. It addresses access, usage and quality and has driven measurable improvements in digital payment infrastructure. The strategy has produced a financial literacy movement, a literacy curriculum, and digital ongoing initiatives for small traders. This year's the conclusion award for I'm sorry about that. It addresses access, usage, and quality within the national financial inclusion strategy. Addresses access, usage, and quality, and has driven measurable improvements in digital payment infrastructure. The strategy has produced a financial literacy program, a literacy curriculum, and digital onboarding initiatives for small traders. The IFC story of the Divya Pereira, a roadside coconut seller in Maharashtra, adopting QR code payment captures the human dimension of this progress. But the NFIS has significant blind spots. It does not specifically address the free trade zone workforce. The 400,000 garment workers in Karnataka, Yodama, and Kokkala, the engine of the export economy, are not a main target of the strategy. The financing gap for women owned micro, small, and medium enterprises in Sri Lanka is estimated at USD 695 billion. This is not a small problem that the current enterprise framework is likely to grow without much more market. So what are the cross-cutting themes that we have come across throughout this? Pulling together the South Asian sector, two clusters of cross-cutting themes: structural barriers and gender exclusion. Let's look at structural barriers first. The access usage gap is the defining problem across all four countries. Opening a bank account does not produce financial well-being. The barriers to credit, collateral, documentation, credit history remain essentially unchanged by account opening initiatives. And when states withdraw from social protection, as in Sri Lanka, during the economic crisis, the workers least served by formal finance bear the cases. Moving on, gender exclusion. Across Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka, the financial exclusion of textile workers is inseparable from gender equality. Women workers, they are disproportionately exposure to financial protection. Digital wage initiatives tend to benefit more literate, brand-facing workers, not the most marginalized. And microfinance offers position as the solution for women as a structural issue. It keeps women at the micro level without creating pathways to substantive economic power. The feminist economic literature is clear on this. The problem is not that women need to be included in existing financial systems. The problem is that those systems were designed around assumptions of formal employment, of collateral, of male household entry that exclude most women textile workers by the example. The promise and impact. Digital technology is the most important driver of financial inclusion across South Asia today. Mobile money, reward payments, digital payments, and e-KYC, electronic money of customers, have all expanded the frontier of financial access. But the literature constantly warns against techno-optimism. Digital inclusion without an enabling ecosystem can impose cost rather than reduce it. Bangladesh's experience where digital vehicles were mandated by workers, then had to return transportation at agents to catch up. It's a clear illustration. For garment workers, specifically, the barrier to digital finance are limited smartphone ownership, restricted factory schedules that prevent bad low digital literacy, poor connectivity in trade from boarding users, and cash-dependent local economies where digital payments are not accepted by land boards, markets, or transport providers. The policy lesson is straightforward, but has rarely been implemented. Digital wage mandates and account opening drives must be accompanied by holistic ecosystem development. Merchant acceptance, agent banking, closed duty, flexible banking networks, and sustained financial literacy investment targeted at workers, not just at small businesses. So let me wind up. The literature is consistent across all four countries. Textile workers, especially women, remain structurally excluded from leading to financial services despite involvement in aggregating social metrics. The asset usage test is the defining policy problem. Improving this requires moving this account to recurring training updates, insurance updates, and real financial health at the local level. Sri Lanka's paradox, the best numbers in South Asia, but one of the most vulnerable countries, should be a signal to policymakers that deadlines at least and a worker who has a bank account but cannot access credit cannot pay medical bills without going to a money lender. And whose retirement savings are vulnerable to safety practice is not financially included in any means. The feminization of the government was mostly financially included, also a gender question. Solutions that do not gender within specific concepts such as household power allocation, documentation and in digital finance, for all knowledge is not a substitute labor and collective bargaining and unnecessary. So I actually come up with some, policy suggestions, and I'm not going to go into slides, but this is a time which was has no universal backing and ways that were but I'm going to keep this back. And lastly, I have a little bit thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation, ma'am. We have moved to panel with us online is Dr. Manali S., Assistant Professor, Department of Sociology. Manoj Sundarban, University, Tirunelveli, Tamil Nadu. We now move to panel discussion 2. Sharing the discussion with us online is Dr. Mrinalini S., Assistant Professor, Department of Sociology, Manoj Sundarban, University, Tirunelveli, Tamil Nadu. Vinani S., Assistant Professor, Department of Sociology, Manohari Sudhanari, USA, Trunelveli, Tamil Nadu. Hello? Hello, is it audible? Hello, hello.
Yes, you are on. You can start.
Okay, sir. Good morning, all of you. Hello?
Yes, ma'am. We are yes, you. Very good morning.
Okay, sir.
Yes, so please, after sorry, please good morning, and to all. So we will be starting our federal studies first this particular day actually. So it's my day pleasure to introduce our speakers for this session. We have Dr. Meenu, Professor in the Department of Social Work at the University of Delhi. Dr. Anand is a renowned academician and social teacher whose work has significantly contributed to the field of social policy, labor welfare, social protection, and community development. Her research focuses on vulnerable populations, social inclusion, and sustainable livelihood, making her one of the leading world social work and public. Today, shall we review debate a trauma to study informal sector social. Given the crucial role played by the informal source in India's economy as insights into the challenge and pathways towards ensuring economic stability are equal to our understanding of this important. Please join me in warmly welcoming Dr. Meenu. So next, this particular session we have Dr. Alvin Moser, our English and professor in the School of Science at Christ University. Alvin has been actively engaged in research and academic collaboration with industry, studies, governance, and international. It was considered a strong commitment to transform resource into speaking on policy implementation, selling, and framework. This presentation provides graduate perspective on bringing the gap between policy formulation and practical by highlighting practical strategies, particularly better and development. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Alvin as well. And our third speaker for the session will be Dr. Indra Priya Darshani. It's my pleasure to introduce her. Dr. Indra Priya Darshani is an assistant professor in the Department of Sociology and Population Studies at Columbia University. Her research interests include gender studies, financial inclusion, social development, population studies, and women affairs. Through her academic work, he has contributed a deeper understanding of the social dynamics of economic development. Today, he will be presenting on gender dynamics of financial development and financial development. So, one of the presentation will shed light on the gender-specific dynamics that is financial discrimination and economic development. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Indra Priya Darshani. our sponsors, welcome all the channel members. What do you think?
Thank you so much, Dr. Ashari. I would like to express my gratitude to Dr. Yasir Ashraf for asking me to be here and be a part of this wonderful activity that our sponsors very, very important in doing seminar. For selection, I will be speaking on women in informal economy, feminist insights. This title was shared later. So, no. I mean, I'm the one who, did it. So, fault is all mine. So, I will be taking Dr. Asha, and please allow me to leave with your permission once the talk is over. So, please allow me. Thank you so much. I once again wish everybody a wonderful morning. It's a great privilege to be a part of this wonderful seminar. And I know Dr. Ashraf has been working since many, many months to systematically plan everything. I'll be talking on women in informal economy, feminist insight. And I think this theme is very important because it intersects gender, work, social justice, human rights from the context of women. Also, we all are aware that women constitute a significant portion of the global workforce. However, large percentage of women, we have been deliberating from yesterday, they are actually concentrated in the informal economy, and that is where labor is informed, very, very invisible, it is devalued, and it is also inadequately protected. Now, I want to actually broadly talk about three questions which I wish to pose in front of the August audience, which is there in the online as well as the offline board. Number one, who are these women who are in the informal economy? Number two, what are the feminist perspectives, in terms of making us understand about the experiences of women who are in the informal economy? Third and final is that what are the implications of these for policy and for I'm a social work teacher from a social work perspective. So the first thing we know as per the International Labour Organization, we are all aware that informal economy is, the economic activities which are not fully regulated by the state, and there is lots of gap, even especially in social security, employment benefits, state government. Now, women constitute a significant workforce in the informal economy, whether they are in the textile industry or in working in factory vendors, agricultural laborers, home-based workers, construction workers, waste takers, plant repair workers, food vendors, or transportation vendors. Their contribution actually sustain families, local economies, and national development. However, their work is very, very unrecognized and undervalued. Now, the paradox, is very, very striking. On one hand, we say that women contributing to informal economy is really important that, we really understand the significance of it because they are indispensable. However, at the same time, while the labor is indispensable, the workers are dispensable. So when we talk about feminist perspective on women's labor, beyond duty and work and employment, and it asks very, very important questions. For example, who performs the work, who benefits from the work, and whose labor is actually recognized. Now, traditional economists only value paid work, and feminist scholars challenge this assumption by arguing that unpaid paid work, such as, whether it is at home also cooking, cleaning, childcare, looking after elderly, managing household work, is equally productive because these were the labor force. And when women perform very, towards and equal role, because they are productive labor in the market and they are reproductive labor within the house. Now, many women actually, also have a lot of community. So, when we look at women contributing to the informal economy, we are looking at the structural inequality and not really considering the individual failure. Feminist perspective reminds us that women is
disadvantages are not caused by individual weaknesses, however, they are caused by the structural injustice and the devaluation of their work because women have, whether textile industry or informal economy in general, lower divisional wages, there is absence of maternity benefits, absence of paid leave, the workplaces are very unsafe, there is a decision-making power, the employment is very insecure, and there is gender-based discrimination. I'm aware about many examples in industry, for example, where the workplace environment is very unhygienic. It's very difficult for women, particularly who are menstruating, to work in so unsanitary conditions. We have feminization of labor, which means that we are looking at increasing prevalence of employment with insecurity, inflexibility, temporary nature of contract, low wages, weak bargaining power, so on and so forth. So the agency, when we look at from the technology perspective, when we look at women's autonomy, women's agency, we realize that even though they do sometimes try to resist, they try to adapt, they try to overcome. There is also intersectionality because a woman belonging to a low class, context specific in terms to the vulnerability of the women. Now, when we look at the intersection of tribal women who are even more marginalized, intersectionality reminds us that effective policies cannot have a one-size-fits-all approach. Now, I would like to conclude by saying that the way forward is to improve the lives of the women in the informal economy, which actually what is needed is a very comprehensive and effective approach, which will probably involve effective implementation of labor laws, universal social protection, maternity benefits, childcare benefits, safe, sanitary, infrastructural conditions, equal wages, representation for decision-making, recognition of their unpaid, unvalued care work, gender-responsive budgeting, proper labor inspection mechanisms, and continued multi-pronged sustained efforts to transform the patriarchal attitude. So economic growth only, just cannot do justice unless we have social equality and gender equality. So we always say that women in the informal economy, they don't have safety. It is often said that they are temporary, they are marginalized. However, it is women who are in the household, it is women who are contributing significantly to the national economy, and they are performing enormous amounts of paid as well as unpaid labor. So the real challenge is whether women work enough? No. The real challenge is whether their work is valued, whether it is recognized, whether their rights are protected, whether their dignity is ensured. So, finally, I would like to close by saying that when we talk about feminist insights or feminist perspective, reminds us that the question is, not the number of women who are in the informal economy, but what are the conditions under who controls their labor, whose interests are served, and whose voices remain unheard. So, as students, as scholars, as academicians, as citizens, it is our responsibility to move beyond just documenting their vulnerabilities towards transforming the structural inequalities that continue to shape their day-to-day life, day in and day out for months and years and throughout it. And
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Has highlighted how social sector they experience irregular incomes, lack of social security, limited access to health care, maternity benefits are not there, pensions and other things which are low. So addressing issues more than economic growth is called for political policy that extends social protection, improves access to education and skill development, promote financial literacy and simplified social tradition. Empowering women in the informal sector is not only a matter of culture, but also an economic matter. Thanks a lot, ma'am, for such a wonderful lecture. Thank you again. Ma'am, I think you have a presentation, right? Sir, are you here? So, who is the next presenting? Is it Alvin sir or we have? Okay. Alvin sir, I am not able to see you. Can you start your presentation?
I now Dr. Anand Joseph, Sir. I now invite Dr. A. Joseph, Assistant Professor, School of Sciences, Right, Lavanta Campus, Pune, on policy gaps, implementation challenges, and way forward.
So good morning, one and all present here. First of all, thank you PT Institute of Arts and Science for giving the opportunity for presenting my views on the topic financial inclusion to intelligent inclusion. Again, looking into the perspective of policy, implementation challenges, and with respect to AI and the growth of AI in terms of different tools and techniques. Yes. So moving to the next slide, today the session will be focusing on majorly the policy gaps, implementation challenges, and way forward in the AI era where we have a lot of AI tools and technologies that are evolving, and then aligning the AI applications with how exactly users are ready and how exactly we can go into different safeguarding approaches where we can inclusively apply these techniques to textile workers, textile people who work in the field, in the sector to effectively use these techniques to improve the overall application. Again, moving to the next slide, we have the term financial inclusion or financial access being constantly discussed in the last 2 days. I was listening to a couple of presentations where all of them were looking into financial inclusion and how exactly it can be communicated or used, working with textile workers. So majorly, when we look into financial access, it is restricted to account opening, or maybe when we tell that the workers are having an account, or maybe they are having a smartphone and set of applications installed, or maybe yeah. So whether digital transactions, whether they are possible to, whether they are able to do the digital transactions, or whether they can
Hello,
do the service, understanding how
sir,
exactly
guest hotra
different services
kottidano.
are. Again, that is not exactly what an intelligent inclusion always being considered. So whether the people are able to understand what service they are using, or whether they can compare different options safely, or whether they can identify a fraudulent activity that is happening or that might happen, and how exactly they can escalate their different challenges or different problems that they might face. Again, coming to the bank, it's not just opening a bank account or having the relevant applications installed in their smartphone. It is again how exactly using of these technologies safely, confidentially, and independently, and that is what is actually called an intelligent inclusion. So moving to the next slide, which actually focuses on different activities that a particular textile worker will day to day they will be capturing or they will be doing. So it starts with coming there, the financial aspects coming with their particular wages or how exactly their money they get from their sales or services. And they might often have a shared phone, or they may not be able to have own a smartphone by themselves, or they may not be able to read and understand what particular message comes to their phone with respect to different financial services. Or the governments, central and state governments are planning schemes which might be communicated through them to WhatsApp groups or as text messages or policy documents, which they may not be able to go read through and understand. Again, we often see that there are different credit facilities that are available to avail loans for various purposes. Again, the terms, conditions that are present inside this particular loan documents, they may not be able to read and understand. And they may not be able to or realize how exactly a fraudulent activity happens and how exactly they can mitigate that particular issue. So the core problem is not the lack of technology, it is actually the mismatch between technology, policy design, and how exactly they are using them. So again, when we are coming up with policies, the policies and should address the gaps that AI or the technology advancements that causes. So it is again, it's not just understanding how whether they have access to the technologies. It should focus on whether they are able to safely access these technologies. Again, it is most of the documents are majorly in English or Hindi, which may not be properly accessible for regional people with their major focus is on regional language. So they should also be able to read, understand the policy documents. And again, the fragmented systems should also be connected and considered when the policies are framed. And then when it comes to AI, there comes the major challenge, which is actually the accountability. Who is responsible for the content that is generated or content that is recommended to the people through different platforms? And again, how exactly they can be focused towards these people also will be able to enhance in terms of technology usage and application. Again, this comes with respect to different challenges grouped into three different categories. One is technical, social, and institutional. In technical side, the major focus on the documentation and records that are available in the system. So sometimes when we give the data to different sensors or when we capture the data, the data may not be complete. So all the fields with respect to what we are looking at into a special worker segment or that may not be available. And then data might be captured in regional language, which again will be difficult for a technical system to process in terms of compatibility issues. And then in some places still there are lack of proper network services, which we also will be able to face when we move around to different parts. Again, the AI models, they always keep learning from what they have, what they are getting, and then that again creates a challenge from the technical side. In terms of social sector or social side of implementing different AI into the system, one major thing is the distress that is happening. So again, sometimes the policy recommendations that is being given by the system may not be actually adopted by the people, because it might be on a different context. When we are looking at the context of Tamil Nadu, the system might be given the context of US, because the system is being trained with the data that is there available publicly, and that might be in English, and that is mostly from US or a different country, which may not be readily applicable to the system that we are looking at into a regional perspective. Again, we might also fear about data misuse. When we share the data, the responsibility of how exactly data is being captured or where exactly it is shared, it is not known to all the people. So it is basically, there is a trust of data security when it comes to usage of technology. Again, the digital autonomy for workers is something that is again a major focus that should be taken care to enhance how exactly the people will be able to use smartphones or different applications, different schemes that are being present. And they mostly currently they are being depending upon some intermediary people who might also misguide them in terms of policies or whatever being sent to them. Again, when they collectively form into small segment groups, again there will be priorities given to the people who are in power, and then all people's voice may not be heard as such. Again, that is with respect to institutional challenges where no clear system order will be there, or sometimes long-term maintenance is required in terms of updating different things. Again, this creates a technological barrier. Again, when we come to AI-based solutions, there are different solutions that can be planned, introduced in different aspects. So there are some problems that are being mentioned here, and then different AI applications and what kind of safeguard we need to enforce in terms of using these technologies. For example, when there is a case of irregular income, we can provide the people with a budgeting and cash flow guidance system, recommendation system, how exactly they can manage their budget, or how exactly they can enforce cash inflow properly. And then the advice might not become cohesive always. So sometimes the advice that they're getting may not be fit for them. So that kind of a safeguard we need to enforce so that the advices that are being provided by the AI tool are actually supporting them. Again, we have certain case studies with respect to different type of AI applications. One is with respect to multilingual financial assistant. The workers can access or use the platform, and then they can communicate in regional language. Suppose we all might be using smartphone, and we also have used Gemini. Where the questions that we are asking in English, and if you are asking the same question in a regional language, you may not get the same answer always. There is a gap between how exactly the tools techniques currently understands the local language, perceive the things, and how recommendation is being given. So here all we need to add certain safeguards as well as enforcements in order to ensure that the recommendations given by the system are adoptable for the workers. Again, another use case is again a scheme navigator and personalized guidance system. So there are a lot of schemes, policies, and support system being introduced by the government, central and state governments. But actual dissemination of this doesn't happen to the marginalized workers. So there should be some system that is being in place that can communicate the benefits of each of the plan, and then that can recommend which plan they should adopt, because all plans may not be suitable for them, or sometimes they may not be able to make use of the plans mostly. So knowing what exactly terms, conditions are, and then effectively using of this can be done with the support of AI infrastructure. Again, another thing is there are a lot of fraudulent alerts or fraudulent activities being happening across technology or technology-based solutions. Basically, you might also be seeing a lot of fraudulent activities coming with respect to accounts, with respect to your mobile applications. So right now, when we move into more sophisticated techniques, the fraudulent people are also using the fraudulent techniques to manipulate people. So there are a lot of financial scams that has been available. So people may not be able to understand whether a particular message is related to an actual message or a fraudulent message, and they in turn lose their money. So there should be awareness that has to be communicated, as well as there should be alerts being generated whenever you are clicking a link. We should give a warning, or there is warning that is existed, but how people are perceiving that warning is to be reconsidered. Whether that warning says that this is a scam site, or you are proceeding to this particular site based on your on risk. So that emphasizes the need for a AI trust framework where there is transparency, rights and redressal options, user-centered inclusion approach, security and consent, and testing for bias. Again, I'm not explaining each of these factors in detail. So again, just to summarize the entire thing in one word, that is exactly the AI thing or the technology should be used and should be disseminated where trust is involved. If there is no trust, there can be misuse, or there can be financial loss, or there are different scams where people lose lives as well. When we are evaluating the effectiveness of different policies, different techniques, we should also understand, or we should also look into whether the technology is comprehensive for the people who are using it. Whether the tool and technology assist in spreading awareness or detecting frauds. Whether the policy or the tool helps in disseminating the policies and schemes, government schemes properly to the people. Whether the people can use the platform using a trust factor, and whether they're getting satisfaction. Whether the generated outcome is handling equality in there, and then how effective or how much error is being generated in the system, so that these errors can be handled and in turn fixed, so that the system generates and learns by itself. So there are certain recommendations again when we move into adopting technologies with respect to different sectors. One is it's not just with respect to creating number of accounts, or maybe creating number of applications as the indicator where inclusion happens. Actually, we should focus on disseminating the knowledge where people can trust the factors with respect to transparency and understanding how exactly different schemes are. Again, when we come into AI-based technology solutions, the technology solutions should be equally equitable in handling different languages. Multilingual approach should be taken care, where people may not be equally qualified for typing in the regional language. So voice-based solutions should be emphasized, and there should be proper audit for treating biasness. That is again a factor in AI system where we lack proper data, and then the system is built on top of that. And then again, we should keep the people who are being using the system in the first priority when we are building such systems, and there should be a partnership with different firms, government, universities, banks, and community organizations for effectively implementing these kind of techniques in community. So with that, I would like to conclude the presentation with respect to moving the technology inclusion towards a more equitable inclusion approach, where all of the different people are considered equally safe and secure in the digital platform. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful presentation. Thank you, sir, for your insightful presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Ashwin, for presenting on policy gap implementation. Great talk. I like to and so equally important reality that well decided policy and intended outcome. Yeah, that is also amplify the growing role of digital networks, the artificial intelligence, and technology and education in policy, relationship, and public service. While these innovations have the potential to improve efficiency, accessibility, transparency, and it is pointed out that here success depends on addressing key challenges such as digital infrastructure, accessibility, data privacy, cyber security. Importantly, he underscores that trust remains a critical factor in the adoption of AI systems and digital science. Building public confidence through transparency, ethical AI practice, accountability, and responsible governance is essential for ensuring that technological advancement translates into meaningful and improved quality. Now, I invite our third speaker, Martin.
Next, I invite Dr. Ryan Indrapriya Rishni ma'am, Assistant Professor, Department of Sociology and Population Studies, Baradar University, Tamil Nadu, to present on gender dimensions of financial literacy.
So good morning, everyone. Okay, now I think I'm set. The volume works. Okay. So good morning, all. First of all, thank you VET Institute of Arts and Science for inviting me, and I would like to extend my gratitude to Dr. Yasir Ashraf for having me today, and I also thank for the opportunity from the chairpersons, all the three chairpersons that we have been scheduling for the day. So I am Dr. Indra Priyadarshini, guest faculty from the Department of Sociology and Population Studies, Bharatiya University, Coimbatore. Yeah, hope you are all very much involved in financial literacy. Like past 2 days, you are very much involved with it, financial literacy, financial inclusion, and all those things. Now it's very common concepts for you, I guess. So now I'm again going to include certain things. Before entering into what we are going to talk here, I would like to quote something from our previous presentations that I heard today. Like a couple of moments I was able to target, like which was connected to my presentation. I was able to extract it. So firstly, I would like to connect from the earlier presentation, like from Professor Ayesha ma'am. Like she quoted certain things, saying that financial literacy is more of accessibility of the financial products, accessibility of the financial services, and how women or how generally population access in various sectors. That's what she was focusing on. And later on we had Meenu Anand ma'am, who also said that there are different characters for women, why she's not into this active financial literacy or in the financial inclusion field. Like she emphasized on something like care responsibility of women, which is not being equated or not being taken part by other members in the family. So along with these two people, I also see something different in Dr. Alvin Joseph, who said that it's not about the financial accessibility of the people that we have to see when we are talking about the financial literacy. We should also see the financial intelligence of the people. So he insisted on the intelligence level, how you are accessing the resource. But now I would like to take you to the another level, not about the accessibility, not about the general usage, usability, how inclusive you are in your usage, but I'm taking you into the third level where we'll be focusing on some hidden components, which is. So I will be presenting on the third component, which we feel like it's not there in our regular life, or it's been invisible in our daily things, like it's been embedded within the system. So that's where I stand here to look into the hidden components, what's there in our daily life, which is hindering us in our financial accessibility or in the general term financial literacy. So to begin with, my theme which was given to me was the gender dimension of financial literacy, and what I have narrowed it is the gender landscape of financial literacy. So here again, as I said, apart from being a teacher or a lecturer in a university, I am also a development researcher. So I will move into the development and policy orientation aspects of this literacy. So when we get into the concept, the gendered landscape of financial literacy, as you already know, financial literacy is a very neutral term. We feel like there is no gender in it. Like it's about managing your money, it's like accessing your resources, financial technologies, and we'll be talking about the well-being of the people in general. So we have a question like, where is the gender in it? But the problem is, actually we have gender, because when you get into the studies, when you go through the literatures, you find that female literacy is very low, female financial literacy is low, or there are some other notions for male also, which we'll be discussing later. So we have this kind of gender aspects for financial literacy, and that's why I have taken this as my theme. So going to the first way, how should we see financial literacy? I have taken a policy-oriented approach where now the world has been more into this disseminating the knowledge of financial literacy. Like we are more like to acquire financial literacy, to disseminate the knowledge of financial literacy. We are scheduling programs, we are developing strategies in the national level and in the global level. So if you take the global level, we have OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, Economic Cooperation Development. So this is a universal standard framework. It's an international intergovernmental organization which has framed strategies for financial literacy. We might have questions with its framework, schedules and all those things. Usually it studies the youth literacy, or it studies about the adult financial literacy, the retirement planning and all those things. And one unique character I would like you to note in the OECD is that there are 30 countries in OECD, and all the 30 countries are highly developing countries, or highly developed countries, sorry to say, it's highly developed countries. So their way of looking into financial literacy will be obviously different from what we perceive as financial literacy from the global south. So that framework, that strategy has been adopted by various other countries, and we have contextualized our form of our own financial literacy, and that's one example, like National Strategy for Financial Inclusion. It's the strategy supported or mediated by RBI of India. So in India, we have various programs, like we have Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, we have National Center for Financial Education, and SEBI is giving its financial literacy. So India is having its own financial patterns or financial schemes and strategies. So we have a question here, that everyone is looking into this financial literacy, financial education, and it's not something new concept. It's existing probably a decade or more, but still there are n number of studies coming in. So we now coming to the question, like, what is missing in this? Though there are so many strategies, so many programs happening for us, why are we still finding it difficult to pay some amount when we are buying something, when we wanted to save something from our salary? So why all these things are happening? And that's where I feel there is a gap which the policymakers have forgotten to see. And I would like to insist on the gaps that we have ignored. So now the question for the entire presentation would be like, when we have financial services, or when we have everything that's quite common for all, but still we need to have a gender lens. So why do we have the gender lens? That's my preliminary question that I'm taking for the day. And I'm giving a disclaimer saying that gender perspective, I am not into just taking women as a placard or something like that. Always go with the financial literacy, low level of financial literacy of women. And also I am not going to exclude them because they are also one in the general group. So first, as always, as the norm of the development scenario, we start with women. So this is a code or the finding, more than saying is a code, it's a finding from an empirical study, and we will interrogate into it. So the findings say that women have low financial health. And financial health, first we need to know what is financial health. Financial health is like the state of household level to maintain, the manage the money they have in the hand. At the same time, they will look after the uncertainties or difficulties they might get in the future. So that's what we call as a financial health. So do women really have financial health? And that's the question. So what the study has said that women's financial health is actually poor and low in the aspects of spending, saving, or in the borrowing or in the planning. So now we need to look into the local aspects. Why? Why so? Why women are having all this lacking aspects in these aspects? We know that women in our home save money. We know that women in our home give us money when we want to spend. So money is in the hand of women. But still we say she lacks financial health. And why so? It's because there is a survey and it has been proved that 1 in 6 married women actually face this financial decision-making problem. Which means that she's an employer, she's the owner, she has money in the hand, she has ATM, UPI and everything. But when she wants to make a spending decision, she's always in a doubt. She wants to confirm with someone else, and that someone else is always probably the spouse or the male partner or the male family member in the house. Can be a brother or it can be father, anyone like that. So women is always expected out of her own will, or it can be a natural consensus towards her that she would be always relying on someone. And why? What is it? Sorry, I forgot to put this. So why she's doing it? What is making her to normalize this? As I am from a sociology background, and I believe that you can understand certain concepts we are trying to say. There is a person called Bourdieu in sociology. He's trying to say that this aspect of women normalizing this hegemony is being the cultural aspect. She has internalized it. So no one is coming and telling your mother or sister to say that ask me before making any decision, ask me before spending anywhere, save like this, save like that, don't do retirement plan, don't do insurance plan. No one is insisting women to be what she wants. But still, she does the same. She doesn't do anything on her own and she always relies on someone else. And why does she does that is because she is into this cultural capital as said by Bourdieu. So here what Bourdieu is trying to say is that women are embodying something in their life. That is, they get something in their mind. They see their mother, they see their aunt and neighbors who are all forming certain role. They have certain role. Like they get up in the morning, they cook, they do household chores, they send their husbands out, they send their children out, and even if they are working, they go out, work, get back, do the household chores. So they are routinized with this and they embody this culture. And they believe that if they are women, they have to do this. So this embodiment is making them to believe that, okay, this is normalcy. This we have to go for it. And that's the first feature or the first state that women is getting what they have seen from the society or from their earlier generations or the neighbors. Second thing is she's objectifying it. So what she's objectifying is always materialized form. When you materially or physically have some form for it, you would call it as objectifying. So what she's objectifying is whatever she has perceived from her mother, from her sisters, elders, women who have normalized this cultural role of women, they'll start practicing it. So when she becomes a woman, an employer, highly educated women also, at the same time she doesn't take decisions. Probably her salary would be higher than her spouse, but her earning is major source of income for the household. That doesn't bother. The final decision maker would be men, or else they would go in a joint decision making pattern, but still again there will be a higher say from the male perspective. So here objectification will be happening. So she will, whenever she wants to buy something, whenever she wants to use her ATM, I believe that you would have seen your parents where your mother, though she holds the ATM card, she doesn't remember her ATM pin. She doesn't use UPI because she doesn't remember all those things, and she complains it about her poor memory. But it is actually not her poor memory. It's like the responsibility she doesn't want to take. For her, this financial dealings and everything is men's responsibility. I don't have any say in that. I don't want to be bothered about this men's work. So she's happily into it and she's making it happen in the objectified manner. And this here, again, as I said, in the case of embodiment and in the case of objectified, there is a outside role being played, but still if you can't able to identify the outside role in the two states, there's third state which is called institutionalized state, where the structure is institutionalizing the normalcy of women being in the gender role or in the cultural norms. So this is being institutionalized. So even if a woman is trying to come out of the family, work on her own, spend things on her own, suddenly the society will name her like, oh, she's a lavish spender. Because they doesn't accept that kind of women. Because always women should be accustomed to the maid when she's going for a shop, grocery. You would have seen even in the case of mall also, we have a woman always accompanied by a maid. And even in the case of grocery stores where our mothers go also, a female would be accompanied by a maid. But if not, if you say that no, my family is different, my mother is always independent and all those things, though she is feeling a quiet level of freedom, you can again mark it saying that it is a short-term freedom. And also it's in the very everyday activity. Like groceries, whatever she wants to buy, she can decide. What dress she wants to buy, she can decide. What dress she wants to buy to the family, she can decide. What food to be prepared, she can decide. So everywhere she has freedom. But what will happen when it comes to getting their children married, choosing the education for their children, what kind of employment they have to give, if she wants to do some investment planning, if she wants to make an insurance planning and all those things. So in all these cases, women is not left alone. She's been always accompanied and in the upper hand she's been oppressed by the patriarchal social structure, which we obviously know. I think you would have seen in your regular day-to-day life in the family or in the classrooms and everywhere. So what are the ways women is being oppressed or women feel that they don't have this financial literacy, and there and all you can easily identify as income discrimination. So where the first level is like I can quote a case where media people used to say, or even now they are claiming that they don't get an equal pay as like men. And that is the first case that was registered in 2017 by BBC where the presenters, women presenters don't get the equal pay as like the male presenters in the same law. So income is having a discrimination, and if you ask them why, the same work, same people, just the gender is different. So why there is a difference? They give reason saying that women labor or women work is not permanent. They are more into their caring jobs at the traditional family, so we can't rely on them, and their work they do is quite not proper. They are very much fragile in doing the work. So these are the claims that are given by the employer side. So when you go for the occupational segregation also, what kind of job they do? So I did my PhD research with microcredit receivers, so probably they are in n number of jobs. Like I can't say this is the job they'll be doing, but I can categorize them. I can categorize them saying that they are mostly into informal labors. So either street vendors, vegetable vendors, or agricultural laborers, or any kind of fruits, vegetable vendor, or the household business, you can say, call them as an entrepreneur. But what kind of entrepreneurship they do is again textile sales, tailoring shop, tuition centers. So these are the jobs that they are involved into. And if you see in the large national level, these jobs are not at all recognized. It's been pooled together saying that it's an informal economy. So this is how women occupation is being categorized. Or as she does in the other way around, she would say that I'm doing part-time job because I have a lot of work pulled into my household chores, so I cannot go for a full-time job. So this is an occupation segregation that we can see. And the unequal caregiving burdens, I don't want to stress more on that because you yourself know childbirth, elderly care. So everything has been done by her. The sharing of it, obviously now men are growing it, but still the percentage or the comparison, we can't put it in a larger end. And the unplanned retirement. So there is a proof or a scientific evidence saying that women live longer than men. In that case, in the longevity, it's a scientific evidence. So in the longevity period, when women live longer than men, and in the case of employment, men work, retire. Women rely on the men. And imagine a position when she is divorced or when she becomes a widow, what would be her nature? What will happen to her retirement period, her elderly period? What kind of planning she has? And if you ask your mother or any elderly or to your own self, do I have a forecasted plan for my future, for my retirement? Obviously, most of the women would say that no, it's not my cup of tea. But actually, you will be the sufferer at that time. If you ask the same question to male, they do have a plan. If it is an organized, possible way or not, at least they have a foresight about it. They know they have to focus on their elderly age, they have to settle down, they should have a job, they should have a reliable income at that time, they should have a house and all those things. So that's a very common attribution that we have towards male but not with the female. And one typical nature or a character for women being financially low literate is low confidence. See, it's a common study that was done by OECD. There are a lot of thinkers who has carried out the study later in various periods, saying that when you ask a number of questions to women, if you ask them like, do you know mathematical skills regarding the interest rate calculation, numeracy, and all those things, women would hesitate giving an option. Whereas when you give them the option saying that a right answer, a wrong answer, and I don't know, there are high chances for women to go for I don't know. And they made another study where they removed this I don't know option. They have to either choose right or wrong answer, I mean the two options, and there are high percentage of women selected the right answer. So it's not about that women don't have financial literacy, women don't access things. It's like they are not confident in them. Why they are not confident in them? It's again because of the structural or the institution. Structure here, I mean their culture, their society, the way they are brought in up. So that structure is imbibed into them, making them not involved into any of your financial decision makings. And lastly, we have this internalized misogyny. So it's a very common thing. Like people always have an opinion about this women. Women are like this. Women can't do this. It's a men's job. This is only women's job. So they have this gender role. And unfortunately, women also internalize it. Women believe that, yeah, I am like that only. I don't have anything. I don't have any interest. I can't have any say in the family. So they have internalized this traditional behavior, the traditional gender roles. So this is very common with women. So if you ask me a question, am I going to start with just women? Here is the other level. I am also entering into the men's arena. So in men's field also, it's a study finding which says that men have behavioral bias. Why? Because they are constrained with, again, certain cultural and societal expectations that they have to stick into it. So men also have behavioral biases regarding financial literacy or inclusion. So here I would like to quote or say to people, West and Zimmerman. They said, gender is something which is done. It's not something which is being. Like you are born human. We don't claim you to be a boy or a girl. Unless and otherwise a doctor comes and tells you like you are being gifted with a boy, you are being gifted with a girl. That's the first moment where your gender is being assigned by someone. Until then, you are very common, they call you as a fetus or an infant, something like that. But later you start adopting the gender norms and roles in the family or in the society. The similar thing, men start adopting, accepting the gender norms or the gender roles. So what they do is like they routinize what is to be done for them. So if they need to do what a man has to do. As I said, for female also, male will see what your father is doing, what your brother is doing. Like they have to take care of the family, they have to take care of your female partners, or they have to take care of the female inmates in the household. They have to take the financial responsibility. They have to take risks. and we put it on men just like we don't make it in a very pleasing manner, or we don't excuse them, we don't ask them, and if they don't do it, we have an anxiety towards them. And we have this terms like, are they real men? Is this men's responsibility? If someone is telling that I'm not going to go for a job, I'll be sitting at home and I'll take care of the household job. If this is being said by a woman, no one bothers. They're like, okay, it's your interest, you can sit at home. Some men will come and take care of you. But what will happen if a man says the same? I will not go for the job after marriage, I'll be at home, I'll take care of the household chores, I'll look after the family, and let the women go and pay the bills, pay the house rent and all those things. Would you accept that kind of a man? So now we are growing into feminist talks, now you are coming into this radical feminism and all those things, but still, do you agree that kind of men? So it's a question here. So this men, the man, what you have seen, they wanted to fit inside this gender. So this is what we have been learned as a gender. This is how we wanted to be in the gender scenario. So we stick into that, we routinize it, we practice it, and we are making it, this is the norm. So this gender is a very common thing that we see here. And why? In what scenarios do men face this? Is men, they have this mandated financial socialization. If you're born male, we believe that you know to handle money. So we don't give you excuses, and we don't. Why I say we is, by gender I'm female, so I can put the claims on you. So we don't give you any excuses, we don't have any, the precautions or something like, if you give me any, say no, I can't do this, I'm weak in financial management and all those things. No, we don't accept you. Financial management, the way of handling things has to be done by men. And when you keep doing it, it obviously creates them the anxiety and the pressure. So what anxiety they have is, they have the anxiety of financial responsibility. They have to take care of the family, they have to see all their needs are done. So it's not about the basic living, like 3 times food, shelter, you're paying of water bills and taxes, is it enough? No, you will be having your personal choices and interests. They have to buy those things also. If they don't do, then again you say that you are not a real man, a man has to do all those things. So men is also having all kind of anxiety. And other thing with the men or men's way of socialization is, men is having overconfidence with financial decisions. They easily go and get involved in this gambling, betting, or in the stock market speculations, Bitcoin speculations, cryptocurrencies. So all these things, men are easily involved into it. Why? Because we believe that they are confident enough. And sometimes it can be overconfident and they can have losses also. But men is having a typical loss, which we call it as loss aversion. See, they would always want to win in wherever they want to. And if they take a risk, and if they get involved in something, they make some investment, or they are doing something, they don't want to lose that chance, and they don't want to say that they have lost. Even they have lost in that, they don't reveal it outside. And that's why WHO and ILO has said that men who are facing losses in employment, in investments, or who are in unorganized low-income jobs, there are high chances for them to have mental disorder, mental stress and frustration, and they don't escape from all those things. So why so? Because they are most conditioned by this case called loss aversion. They don't want to face any loss. And if you again question me, no, this is a very random scenario, it's not common for all, you can take your life examples which is around in us. Like when you go for indebtedness, debt suicide, or farmer suicide in India, bankruptcy, in any cases, most of the cases, men will be the person who are involved. So it's not something negative about the men that I'm trying to quote. They also have financial crunches. They have financial hindrances. They also feel the pressure. So it's like when you talk about financial literacy or planning a policy for a larger group, you cannot generalize anything. And that's what Meenu Anand ma'am said, you can't have one size fits all concept. Like you will be having a separate concepts for everything. So obviously we have touched upon women, men, and why not the other group also. So in the case of third gender, I would like to represent as third gender more than calling them as another gender or a transgender. Let's have it as simple as third gender. So in case of third gender, this is again a statement given by a third gender in the US saying that when we join together, that is when they join together, they most probably communicate about politics, their relationship, but it's very less time that they spend on money. Their talks on money is very limited. So we might have questions saying that what kind of a difference, difficulty that they would have faced when seeing men and women. So women have low confidence, culturally internalized norms and behavior, and men also have same stereotypical expectations towards them, gender norms and all those things. So what is something new with them? So to explain what is new with them, I would like to take Amartya Sen here. So Amartya Sen is one such person who spoke about the capability. So what he says is giving them resources, giving all the resources is not something needed. Giving what they want is needed. So that's what Amartya Sen, to put in a simple word. In the theoretical terms, like we'll be talking about functioning, capability, it's like you have to be given the choice of choosing. So you should be let free to decide what you want. And that's what Sen is insisting for development. Development for any group, for minorities, for any kind of marginalized group, you need to give them freedom to decide what they want. And you can't have a one set bigger universal strategy and put them to everyone. So in that scenario, what kind of problems this transgender face is again something very typical to them. So first there is social stigma. Though women also face stereotypical attributions towards them or affirmations on them, we have social stigma for transgender also. It's like they are being discriminated, excluded in the society, in the schools, in any of the educational sector, in the workplaces, and anywhere the transgender community or the third gender is being discriminated and excluded. So when you are excluded in the early phase, in your educational phase itself, then what kind of literacy that we can expect? So your basic normal education, that is a common education that everyone gets from the schools, even that is a question mark. Then how do we expect them to be financially literate, like financially motivated towards money management? So that's a bigger question mark. Second thing, most of the transgender or the third gender is homeless. They don't stick into a parental home. They come out, they create a community and live in a home kind of an environment. So in that case, what kind of a property surety that you might get from your parents? Probably now we have legal reforms coming into it, but in the traditional setup or in the way the things are moving around, so you don't have a property rights that you can claim from your parents or something, or you don't have this functional protection that you can expect from your parents, like I lost a job, I don't have money, I am unemployed, I don't have anything. In that case, you don't have that right which you feel to be a right. Actually, it's not right for any of us, but we feel that we have a right to ask our parents, take care of us, give money to us, take care of our dealings and functionings. But in case of third gender who are actually homeless and away from the family, who will take care of them? Or if you can't imagine that kind of situation, imagine their elderly period. They also get aged, they also get this retirement period, the older life. How do they spend their older time? So who will take care of them? So unless the community they live with, they have a strong bonding and they have a strong financial network there. Apart from that, no one is going to take care of them. That's something about their outliving their savings. So they might save. All the transgender have a saving plan for themselves because they are very much sure that they can't do things in the later period. So apart from that, something very peculiar for the transgender is that they makeover cost. So transgender, if they wanted to go with this gender affirmation, that is they are trans men or trans women and they wanted to affirm the gender that they have taken. So for that reasons, they have to spend on this makeover cost. Like they have to take care of their skin, their hair, their dressing and all those things. And it's again quite expensive that which we can't imagine. And it's not something that once they do and the rest of the life is done. It's an ongoing cost. They have to spend it probably at a particular period of time. Often they have to put it on them. So what kind of job they get into and what kind of cost, that expenditure that they are incurring doesn't always balance. So you can imagine or you can recollect the transgender women or men that you would have seen in your environment and imagine what kind of expenditures that they would cost, not the expenditures that you do like for your living. Apart from that, what are the other expenses that they would have? So this is making them very much financially vulnerable too. And here again I would like to say the last one, misogyny and transphobia, and again the systems oppression. So it is both interrelated. Systems oppression, again we are entering into the field of intersectionality. Intersectionality is like you have other sections like caste, your class, your social group, your linguistic group, your racial group, apart from gender. Apart from gender, you have other things also influencing this. So when your gender itself is a problem to be financially lifted or to be financially inclusive, what if other sections or other categorizations is also a problem to you? So it's a very bigger thing that we can't even imagine. So they face harassment, they face exclusion, and all those things are very common for them. I mean, it's been normalized for them. So what I'm trying to insist here is, when we are planning a policy, like a national literacy, financial literacy programs or strategies, or something like we are trying to adopt from the foreign nations, we have to make sure that we contextualize. Contextualize doesn't mean that we take the strategies, we put it into our system, and we, what are the financially accessible things, the products that we can see. It's not about the institution systems that I'm trying to insist. I'm talking about the social and cultural background that we are context. So here we have different scenarios, different experiences, different reality for men, women, and the third gender. So you can't have an umbrella schedule or a strategy saying that this is enough and my society will grow, my society will be financially literate. You don't have any universal umbrella strategy. So in that aspect, you have to contextualize. You should be very specific. And you should, again, you might have a question like, it's a national level policy, how can we contextualize to every village and every rural? And that's why we are federal in nature, and we have a center-state relationship, we have rural level, urban level planning and governance. So you should be very much of this division, and we don't concentrate everything to a single power. Our nature, our system, our governance is framed in such a manner that every indigenous people are included into the larger framework. So in that case, your family-centered financial education can be given. School-centered curriculum is being insisted by the framework, but I would say family-centered socialization, financial planning can also be done, and you should be most focused on users and facilitators. When you are planning something, you should always have centered focus on users. And the users, if you are giving them something, you should focus on the facilitators also. The facilitators should be from the same gender or from the same background so that they can easily relate with whatever they do. And you should have gender sensitization. Obviously, you should have gender sensitization, not just for India, for any nation for that matter, because still we have discrimination based on our gender division. So in that case, whenever you're planning for something, a policy, or in the next society, that when you become planners and policy makers, you have to focus more on the standardized patterns, matching it to the contextual areas. So this is what I'm trying to emphasize through my presentation, saying that wherever, whichever policy you are trying to see or read or adopt, always look into the social context where you belong. So until you look into your social context, it's like planning and failing. You will plan, and we always say that we have n number of plans in India, but still we fail. Why we fail is because we don't have a proper system for anything. So these are the references from where I have taken. Thank you. If you have any doubts, you can. Thank you.
We were telling that to look beyond current definitions of financial risk and economy into a broader social, cultural, and policy. While India has introduced several financial policies and policies, highlighted that integration of education that address the unique reality expressed by India. Your profit, your presentation particularly accepts that women relatively poor financial conditions is not really a consequence of limited financial knowledge, but deeply rooted in long-standing cultural and cultural knowledge. In many households, financial decisions continue to be dominated by men, leaving women with limited autonomy towards spending, saving, investment, and market-based gender roles are often normalized in the program prestige, and cultural heritage, leading many women to internalize these normal and perspective financial dependence and nature of the family. Dr. Indra Priyadas reminded that genuine financial improvement is not simply about financial artificial financial support to empowering women to understand, against, and especially power of especially this quality framework that will beyond financial support and the underlying structure promoting gender expression, financial education, caring, and civil rights and social health environment where women and all other children are recognized as equally economic activities. Your presentation reinforces that sustainable development and inclusiveness can only be realized when financial empowerment is accompanied by social conservation and gender equality. Thank you, ma'am, for your best perspective on this particular issue. So we can leave for the speech after that. Yes, Mr. President, shall we go for a speech today?
Yes, sir, we have a team day, then we'll join.
Students, you can read for refreshment.
Okay, so good afternoon to everyone present here. So my topic for today's talk is legal framework and the workers' financial rights in India specifically. So how this session is goes about is why it matters, how and why the legal framework and financial rights is more important for an Indian worker, and what are the constitutional basis or rooted for that legal framework for the people. And there are 29 laws which were considered for the legal framework for workers, but now that is consolidated into a 4 codes. And now you might have checked the few updates regarding the financial update, where initially the basic pay might be fixed by private institutions accordingly, all the dearance allowances, everything are fixed by the private institutional, because when they keep the basic pay as a very low, so the contribution from the employer towards the PF and insurance schemes are very less, and it is compared based on the basic pay. Now they have increased that limit to 50% of whatever the salary we are receiving, it should be in the basic pay. And what are the different codes, legal frameworks, and what are the different cases which were initially fought for the implementation of labor code in India, and now in 2026 what is actually happening at the labor law codes. So why this matters in India specifically is we all know that India is one of a largely populated country, and to be specific, more than 90% of workers in Indians are working in the informal sector. So to be specific, there is a 2 classifications. One is a formal sector and one is an informal sector. The formal sectors are those who are recognized with the proper pay slips and proper appointment orders and bonus. What are the things which are forming the papers that the employer comes under the formal labor work, and informal labor works are those who are doing a daily wages or platform workers. Now there is another type of working culture which is increasing in India. It is not only in India, specifically across the world, is the gig workers. So the gig economy and gig workers are those the freelancing people, those who work in a multiple sector. For example, you can take the Zomato, Swiggy, Zepto, the Blinkit, the different platforms came up. So they work in a multiple sector. And also if you take the drivers, Uber, Ola, if you take, they work in a multiple companies, they doesn't stick to a one particular company. So that means they doesn't have a proper appointment order or paycheck or whatever the official format, they doesn't have it. So, but they earn a lot of money, or they earn money from a multiple sector. So that is a gig economy workers. They doesn't even have a proper legal framework for their employer protection. So that is 90% of Indian economy people work in an informal sector, and based on that 90% of people, 45% of them contribute to our GDP. So India is a developing country and growing economy. So from the more than 90% of informal sector, 45% contribute to our GDP rates. So less than 10% of people are working in a formal sectors like our institution. And in the 45% means 27 crore people are working in an informal sector, and 48.8 Indian population has some social protection coverages up to 24.4. That means from the 90%, only 48% have a social protection schemes. That is also the government has initiated in a recent time, that is in 2023 onwards. But those who are registered in that portal is very less. There are multiple factors contribute for that less registration. We will see that in our coming up slides. So this is the total framework of Indian economy. So why the legal framework is very much needed right now. It's the constitutional foundation. So we have a certain thing in our constitution. One is we can enforce it in a court. For example, if some person deny your work based on your gender or age or some religion, you can directly go to a court and file a case regarding that this person is not giving me any work based on my gender. So that means that is enforceable in court. certain things are not enforceable. For a welfare of people, there is a certain regulations there in our Indian economy, that is an Indian constitution. First one is an Article 23, that is a fundamental right, that is the prohibition of bonded labours. So this might also, if you came across, there is in like few years back, every institution or every organization used to sign a bond paper with us. That means within 3 years you have to work under our company. You have to submit all our originals. So this is the rules fixed by a certain organization. If any organization signs a bond with you, you can go to a court saying that you cannot sign any bond with us, because that is legally prohibited. And also most of us doesn't even know. We cannot, it is not a mandatory thing, we have to submit all our originals. That is also enforceable in court. You can go and say, okay, no one can hold your originals. So that is a major employees are facing, right? When you want to relieve, they won't relieve you. They will keep all your originals. So that is also enforceable in court. You can go to a court and file again saying that you cannot hold my certificate. So no organization can sign a bond with you, and they cannot hold your originals also. That is means the forced labours or bonded labours. That is our fundamental rights. So if suppose after 3 years or you are going for any employment, if anyone wants to sign a bond with you, you can say that it is a forced labour, it is prohibited under our constitution. And Article 39A and D deals with the work for a proper livelihood and equal pay. So that is equal pay to equal work is also a major problem we are facing. Not only us, most of our developing countries are facing that. That means the work is done by both male and female at the same level, but the payment given to a male is higher compared to a female. That is a world level issues which is faced by most of our countries, saying that, for example, at our leadership positions or by a basic level, both will be doing the same work, but male will be paid more higher than the female. That is the issue faced by most of the countries. That is under a directive principles. If equal work is done by both the gender or any gender, the pay should be equal. That is also there. And the 41 right to work. So no one can deny any work based on your gender or age or religion or caste, whatever it is. If someone says that you belong to this religion, I cannot give you this work, you can go file a case saying that this person is denying the work based on my religion or gender. So that is also there. And the just and human condition. So this is a very big issue which is happening in most of our country. Recently in Tamil Nadu also, certain industries are facing that. You might have heard 2 weeks back there is an ammonia breakout in some districts of Tamil Nadu that few people have lost their life. The reason is because they doesn't even have a safety measures. The human condition, the safety measures that should be properly maintained in most of our hazardous industries. And there is every year there is a lot of issues or a lot of safety measures issues which is happening in fireworking industries, factories also, right? So if the industries doesn't follow any proper protocol regarding the safety measures, that is also the denial of their rights to work under a proper condition. That comes under a directive principle. That cannot be enforceable in court, but still you can file a case saying that, see, the safety measures is not followed in our industry. And Article 43, that is the wages. So that is also major reason the problem faced in our economy, where the equal wages are not given to a proper work. That you can take any agricultural labours or a daily wage labours, the pay is not given at a proper level, and there is a minimum wage system that is followed, that most of our people are paying less than that, the minimum wages. So these are the various constitutional framework. When framing itself, they have given a certain labor measures, but how much it is implemented in our industry that is a questionable thing, because International Labour Organization has given a lot of measures saying that it should be properly followed. You can take an example of Karl Marx theory also. There is a bourgeois and proletariats where the exploitation of labor happened. How it has happened means inhuman condition of working hours, and also the payment of
less payment to their production of their goods and services. So this is not only initial or recent issue that is happening from age-old thing. And in India particularly, during a colonial period, we have bonded labours or forced labours. They were paid very less. So based on these conditions, Constitution has came up with a few articles for a safety measures for daily wages, that is particularly to informal workers. And you can say the 8 hours work, that is also implemented by ILO. So if someone works more than 8 hours, she should be paid extra wages. But how many companies are paying extra wages after 8 hours of work is very much questionable. But a lot of people lack in awareness. If the company is making you to work more than hours of stipulated time, you can file a case. But how many people go to that extreme is questionable, because the lack of awareness, and they are very much afraid. If they go and file a case, what will happen to their work? So that is a scenario which is happening now. And there are 29 laws based for safety measures or equal payment, social security. In India there are 29 laws, especially for labours. But now they have consolidated into 4 codes. That is a code on wages. So how the wages should be calculated and given to an individual for their work. And in 2020, 3 more codes were implemented. That is the industrial relations, social security, and OSH, that is an occupational safety and health. And how it is implemented in 2019 and 25, there is implemented period. So all 4 were notified in force. So these 4 codes are approved in a parliament, and it is passed as a law, and it is given to all the states in our India. But how many states which are following that codes, and what are the sub-clauses for that codes are still in process. So only few states have implemented that labor code, but many of our states are still in process, because usually for a national level they will just say these are the codes which is compulsory, has to be followed in as per the labor law. But according to the state-wise policies and state-wise well-wishers, they can classify, or they can include or delete. There are different clauses under that each code. So first one is the code on wages. That is as I said before, we have to give a minimum wages. So if you take, or else if you have a chance to go to any other countries apart from India, you can easily see or witness what are the different wage system that is followed in that country. For example, in Malaysia and in Thailand and Dubai, there is a floor wages, national floor wages or minimum wages. No one cannot pay less than that wages. For example, if you take Malaysia, a few years back, they have increased that floor wages now. When I spoke, that is 30,000 rupees, that is in Indian rupees, that is a minimum wages. If you are a domestic worker, or if you are a driver, or if you are a cleaner, whatever the work you do, no one can pay you less than 30,000 of Indian rupees. Maybe in Malaysian ringgit, they have that classification. So any work, that is a minimum wages. That is why most of our Indian people move to other abroad countries for their work, because whatever the work they do, there will be some fixed national floor wages. No one can pay less than that amount. But if you take India, we cannot, there is no proper classification. Anyone will pay you any amount based on their wish. So that is where the code on wages, the national floor wages, that means India will fix a certain amount as a wage. Below than that, no state or no company can pay any labor. They can fix their target as a maximum, but no one can pay less than that amount. And equal remuneration and timely payment. So this is also in news few months back, that everyone should receive their salary within the date of 7th of every month. So that is there. If the employee is paid to pay within the salary before or on 7th, you can go to a labor court saying that this person is not paying my salary at a particular time. So that is also there. And equal remuneration. As we were discussing, for equal work, irrespective of gender, they should be paid equally. And the bonus, there is a bonus act also. Every year or as a stipulated period of time, employee should be given a bonus. And the second code is the industrial relation code. That is now this industrial relation code is in more of talk. The reason is why, because of development of AI and other advancement, layoff which is happening at the IT sector is very high. So how that hiring should take place, and also the strikes and dispute resolution should be mandatory for every company. There is an act which is in a labor code. If a company has if the company has 100 laborers or 100 employee, if they are terminating any of that employee, that is they cannot get a government permission. But if any company has a more than 300 employees there, if they are going to terminate the bulk of their employee, they should priorly get a permission from a government saying that I am going to terminate this amount of people for this kind of reason. So they should be properly mentioned in that official order. And there is a policy of 48 hours of final settlement. Before the final settlement happened in the period of 30 to 45 days. Suppose if I relieve from this company, they have a period of 30 to 45 days to final settlement my final salary, gratuity or any other cash enforcement, encashment, they have to give within the period of 30 to 45 days. But now that is within a 48 hours, the company has to settle the final amount to an employee if they are terminating that employee. So that is the new industrial code. And code on social security. So social securities are the different schemes which is given by any company to an employer. That is our PF, the pension scheme or insurance scheme or any other that is for a leave, the particular employee is not taking their leave and they can encash that leave. So there are different social security schemes also there. So now they have more policies and more strict rules for that social security scheme. So that is also in use 2 months back. That means most of the companies what they are doing is they will keep their basic pay very low. And all their allowances, house allowances, clearance allowances, they will keep that as a major part. Because if the cost to the company is that basic pay. So based on that basic pay, their PF deduction, gratuity deduction, everything will be calculated. So if a company is giving you as a minimum basic pay, their contribution towards a gratuity or a PF or whatever the other security scheme is very less. So if a person is leaving from that company, for example, after 5 years, if I relieve from the company, the amount of gratuity that is also my salary, but they are giving back in a bulk amount is very less. But the government now what they have said is 50% of your salary should be in a basic pay. You cannot give 30% as a basic pay and more than 70% on your allowances. Now the basic pay should be a 50%. What is the impact based on that? If my salary basic pay is 50%, the contribution towards my pension scheme and other social security scheme will be increasing. The cost to the company is also increasing. The impact is maybe I am saving it in a one aspect, but the other aspect, on-hand salary of mine will be very much less compared to a previous one. So that is also there in a new social security policy. And the other thing they are focusing on is, as I mentioned before, the gig workers, the gig economy. That means the person who are doing a freelancing work. What is their social security? Because that is very big question mark, because they work in a multiple areas and factors. The daily wages is their amount of money they use to earn. What is their security? There is no security for them. That is why I think last year most of the gig workers has on strike saying that there is no social security for us. So for that there is an aggregate amount of thing that the platform company factory has to give to that economy. For example, if it is a Zomato or Zepto, they should be giving 1 or 2% of their annual income as an aggregated amount to as a social security scheme to their gig workers. It is on paper, but how much it is implemented is very big question mark. But implementation takes a long way. So these are the various codes on social security, and OASH code, that is an occupational safety and health codes. So that is also Indian industries and factories are very much lagging. You can take the examples from multiple incidents or a multiple disaster which has happened, that is a man-made disaster which has happened in a recent time. The one is that ammonia leak which has happened in one of the district in Tamil Nadu where the few people has lost their birth. And another thing is manual scavenging. 2 days back also we have seen one person has died because of a dangerous gas which is releasing from a manual scavenging, because manual scavenging itself is a inhuman work condition, right? So that security and social security and health hazards are keenly government is for trying to implement, but how much the organization is trying to implement is again a question mark. So code on wages, that is a universal minimum wage. As I said, there are, apart from few countries or developing countries in say other developed countries has a minimum wage pay and national floor wage. That is they have kept as a some amount as a national floor wage, so no one can be paid less than that amount. And equal remuneration for equal work and timely payment. So I think now there is a month before the 7th of every month, all the people has to get their salary. And inspector cum facilitator, that is a previous thing they have replaced it to check or witness these things. Yes, minimum wage is 178 rupees. So based on our GDP and based on our population, they will fix certain amount. So if any kind of work if individual is doing and if they are paid less than 178 rupees, that is they can go file a case. So and there is another gig working economy, they have to register for their social security scheme as the E-Sharp, and in that E-Sharp portal they have find out that the people those who are working in a gig economy or freelancing work economy, the monthly salary of those people are less than 10,000 rupees, and 35% are earning a lower average earning for a woman in informal work sector. So you can take any example, for example domestic workers or any other platform workers like small vendors. What is their income and how it is calculated and how the social security scheme will be implemented for them is again a very big tough job for any state or a government to follow that. Yes, the code on social security scheme is that pension scheme and insurance scheme, gratuity, and there is a new rule for that gratuity. So if an employee is in a regular service in any organization for 5 years, the gratuity amount which is deducted from their CTC is fully paid. In the terms of contract employee, for a contract employee, if they work in any organization for 1 year, their gratuity can be given to them. Initially, for any kind of employment, if they have to work for 5 or more years. And maternity benefit. This is also very big issues or most of the women faces in many institutions, because the maternity benefit is for example, private institution, I think they will give for 6 months. So for that 6 months, for every month as a regular employee, the salary should be credited to the women. But most of the organization, what they will do is, they have that thought, after 6 months, that woman is not able to rejoin our institution. So 6 months of our pay will be waste of money, right? So they won't pay that 6 months. So if you come and join us back, after that 6 months only, they will pay you as a bulk 6 month salary. What happens is, they are not going to pay you immediately after 6 months. After 6 months, you have to come and join, and after 3 months of your regular work only, they are going to pay that 6 months. Because their thought is, what if I pay you the 6 month salary and after one fine day you come and resign that job? My 6 months of salary will be go into waste, right? So most of the institutions will do that. Whether that is a proper practice, that is the kind of injustice given to the women, right? So those maternity benefit schemes and those things are taken into place, and if they are not paid regularly, they can go file a case in the labor court. But no, most of the women doesn't do that because the lack of awareness, and they don't want to take risk. If you are paid, you pay. If you are not going to pay that, it is also fine for me. So that is the kind of mentality of most of our people in our Indian economy. They don't go beyond that. And gig and platform workers, they were recognized for the first time It is not kind of proper insurance scheme. That is a kind of security scheme that is going to be implemented, but still not implemented. So as of now, that is in 2020 and 21, that is during a COVID period itself, 7.7 million people are into gig worker economy, and 23.5 million are estimated in 2029 to 30 year. That is that particular year. So it is a triple time increasing than the before. So now in the case of higher layoffs and higher faculty termination, then the number maybe increases because most of the people want to do or start their own business. And what is the Social Security Code acts is a security fund for a gig and platform workers, and aggregated contribution, as I said, 1 or 2% of their annual turnover of particular company. And eligible people are framed as an EPF and ESI child benefits, but that's a proper structural framework is not yet implemented. See, the what is in progress is gig worker social security scheme is legally recognized but not yet operational. And some states have moved independently. For example, Rajasthan platform-based gig workers they implemented the certain act. As I said before, as a parliament or a central government, they will pass the 4 codes. What are the sections which is under that 4 codes are an individual states' interest. So they can frame accordingly for their benefit. Because if you compare to Rajasthan, their industrial work and their area of interest is completely different from Tamil Nadu. So based on their industrial output and industrial workers, they can frame their code and laws. And algorithmic management and opaque payouts and the absence of collective bargaining remain largely unaddressed. Because the collective bargaining, everyone has to be collectively work for something is very much lagging in our society. So these are the things which is a setback for us. So what is the industrial relation or workplace safety are layoff approval threshold raised from 100 to 300 workers, and as I mentioned, 48 hours of full and final settlement. Initially it was like 30 to 45 days. Now that's a 48 hours full settlement, and the strikers' conditions for calling a legal strike, and disagree and dispute machinery consolidated into a single grievance redressal mechanism. Because before that's a 29 laws, if that 29 laws have a different sections. So where to file, what to file, that's a very big question mark. Now everything is consolidated into a 4 codes. Then the next one is an occupational safety and health code, consolidate safety, health and working condition rules, weekly working hours cap. So now there is a new trend, right? 4 hours of shift. So in most of the countries they have implemented. For example, Dubai has already implemented 4 days of working and 3 days of off. But the thing is, for 4 days of work, we have to compensate for all those things. So women permitted night shift. Initially, the night shift work is not there. Now the night shift work is there with the consent of a female faculty. And annual health checkups and free issue of safety equipment is mandated. But how long and how much it is implemented is a very big question mark. So what is the enforcement gap? So 70% of informal workers lack EPF. Even if you take in an organized sector, those who are paid a consolidated payment, they doesn't even have a pension scheme. So that is also there, and less than 20% of informal workers have the access to pension. So why that's in less than 20%? The main thing is lack of awareness. And 12 crore people are 62 of them self-employed owners, operators. So there is a longer gap because the development of business and entrepreneurs, the proper implementation of these schemes are very much lagging. And why there is a gap persists, labor inspecting staffing, because staffing is a very much big issue which is happening in India, because most of the government jobs or government related workers are not filled, all are contractual. Because of this gap, the inspecting thing is very much lagging, and self-employment and casual wage work sit outside employment-based enforcement models. Yes, that is also very much true, because if you take any daily wages, one will go for a particular work for 10 days and he will take a break for 1 month, and next month he will go for some other work. So how that person will be come under that framework? So that is the very much gap which is prevailing in India, because we cannot able to consolidate or put a people into a certain bracket. So that is there, and low awareness of entitlements among workers themselves and weak grievances access. Most of the people doesn't even know they were paid less for their work, and most of the people doesn't even have an awareness there is a scheme like this to protect their social security also. These are the main gap grievances which is happening and which is also there. And what are the different landmark judgments which came into a force and it became a few eye-opening moment for a people are People Union for Democratic Rights versus Union of India, which has happened in 1982. In this case, the person has filed a petition saying that the person working in a construction company, they were paid very less. So that person has placed a petition in front of the Supreme Court. Then they have clarified that case as it is an inhuman activity. So under that Article 23, that means prohibition of forced or bonded labor, everyone has the equal rights to work, so they should be paid equally. So in that case, they have given a construction company a certain warning, you should pay any employee a minimum wages. And in second cases, which has happened in 1983, Sanjit Roy versus the state of Rajasthan, because in that case, those who are work in a famine related activity, right? So there is a disaster which has happened in Rajasthan. So certain people are recruited and employed for that work. But in that case also the people were paid very less. But the state government thing is saying that due to some disaster which has happened, I cannot able to pay the employee at a greater wages, so I am paying a minimum wages. But the court has said that even during a drought or any disaster time, you have to pay any employer or any workers equal pay. So that is also an eye-opening case, because even during the disaster time, you should pay any workers with the minimum wages. And that's in another case, Singh versus Union of India in 1982. Here is also the another case, equal pay for equal work. In that case, what happened? The police drivers, right? The constable drivers. So those who are working in a contractual pay are paid very less compared to the government employee workers. So what is their case in that is, even I am working for a government, but in the contractual basis, that person is working in a regular full employment. But I am paid very less compared to that person. But the amount of work we both are doing is the same work. So why I am paid very less? So he filed a case and saying that I am paid very less and there should be equal pay for equal work. So according to the Article 14, 16 and 39D, so Article 14 is the right to livelihood, right to there should not be a discrimination based on my caste or age or gender, whatever it is. So I have to pay equally. In that case, he has won that case and saying that Supreme Court has said that that person should be equally paid, irrespective of whatever it is. And next case is Moksha, which is Union of India in 1984. State obligation towards a bonded and migrant labor force. That is also very big debate which is happening right now in India also. In Tamil Nadu or even in few states of us, we are recruiting a migrant labor with a low wages compared to the actual wages of their rights, right? So that is also a big issue which is happening. But those people who are employed, they are very much, they lack in awareness about that schemes also. So in that also the bonded labor should be abolished. No one can be paid less than the actual national floor wages. And state of Punjab versus Singh in 2016 case, in that temporary and daily wages employee held entitled to wages at par with the regular employee for the same work. So this is a very big debate which is happening in most of our government or central government institutions, because I am recruited as a contractual or a consolidated pay person, but I am doing the same work similar to a regular employment of that particular organization. but I am paid very less compared to that person. So that is what which is happening, and lot of cases has been filed against to that point. And now the Supreme Court or any High Court says that you cannot deny the payment for equal pay. So everyone should be paid equal irrespective of whatever the nature of employment it is, because for equal pay, equal work, equal pay should be given. So that is another case. So these are the landmark judgments which has happened in the previous years, which became an eye-opening for most of the companies and factories. Suppose after this judgment also the company is doing same thing again, they will be fined a huge amount as a fine. So most of the companies are regulated to follow certain rules under the labor code of particular state. You can ask whether the labor safety measures or labor codes are same for all the states. No, certain codes are, what are the 4 codes we discussed is the same for all the states, but under that clauses, sections vary from one state to another state. So what are the things we have achieved so far is forced labor. We have brought certain things under the control of forced labor. Now no one can employ a certain person as a bonded labor. That's why in recent years no one will sign any bond with you. Even in ITs or even in any other employment, that bonded labor thing is completely abolished. If certain employers do it, they will be fined or even their license will be revoked. And equal remuneration, that is on paper, but how much it is implemented is also a very big question mark, because we cannot go and ask a salary from each and everyone, right? Because that is again a HR policy. Whenever we join in a certain company, they will initially say you cannot go and ask other person's salary. So the equal remuneration also we are not aware, but as per certain institutions that they have a certain pay scale structure. And non-discrimination. So someone is denied of any work based on anything. For example, I don't like your color, or based on your female or third gender. So no one will be denied of that work. That is what a lot of cases have been filed, because being a queer people, if I denied of my work, he has a legal right to file a case. So that is also resolved or revoked in our India. And child labor. Still we are fighting to revoke that completely, but still as far as certain things are there, child labor is more or less stopped. And the freedom of association, which is still not at all completely followed, because we have a certain rules and regulation for the formation of union or formation of association for a welfare of workers. And the right to collective bargaining, that is also rectified, because India is a kind of highly populated. If we give freedom to a lot of people to form their own association or collective bargaining, that will be a complete chaos. So that is, certain things are completely stopped, and certain things are government has revoked it. And how that 4 codes, whatever the things we are discussed on places, all 4 codes are not notified. 29 central laws are coded into 4 codes. That is a code on wages, industrial code, and safety, social security code, and OSH code. And in last year, draft central rules published for stakeholders, and in early 2026, central rules are substantially finalized. Now what is happening is 30 plus states and union territories are notified regarding the changes in 4 codes, and the single pan India date still awaited, because how that 4 codes will be implemented in all the states, and what are the different dimensions where all the states will be taking that codes into a place are still into a discussion section. What are the challenges? Though we have a 4 codes, and what are the challenges each states might face, or as individual we faces? Coverages. How much self-employed or casual wages majority sit outside this employer-based enforcement together. As I said before, one person will gig workers. I might be working as a car driver this month, and next month I will be doing a construction work, and after that I will be doing into some other casual work. So how that fellow will be framed into a single framework is a very big debate, because I am just giving you one person example. There will be a pros and pros of people doing the same thing. So how those will be framed into a single this framework into a code is very much difficult process. So that coverage, how long the people will be coverage is a very big question mark. And as per the social security scheme, as we discussed, the basic pay should be a 50% of their allowances. So that is also there, but it will shrink the monthly income of few employees. So how much the people will be acceptable for that is again a big question mark. And collective voices. Few are getting awareness and few are lagging awareness. The collective voice to bring all those four codes into a place is again a question mark. And in the recent time and post-COVID era, the gig workers, that economy is highly developing, and how the aggregated contributor rule, how the platform companies will be agreed to give a certain percentage into a social security for a gig workers is again a question mark, and it remains in a draft, not yet operational. So these are the major changes most of the states or the most of the people will be facing. And what is the way forward is state rule making. So central government has passed a certain thing and four codes. Each state job is to create a certain sections under each code to make it possible. And operational thing is a very big question mark, because everyone has to fit into a certain framework. That is a very big question mark, because India is a highly diverse country and highly diversified workforces are there. So to bring into operational is a very big thing. And strengthen enforcement capacity. How, when the framework is done, how much that is going to be enforced and implemented is again a doubtful one. And the portability and registries. So how much the grievance mechanism and the grievance forces are there to enforce each and everything is that we have to wait and see. So these are the things we are waiting as far as 2026 rules. Those four codes have been given to or notified to all the states. That state rule has to be implemented, and they have to pass on a different codes under these four major things. So that's all. Any doubts? Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your insightful presentation. Can we wait for lunch?
Okay, so